Hey, so in this video, I'm going to give you 7 different nonprofit business ideas for you to consider. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, this is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. If you don't know me, I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. If you need help with your nonprofit, make sure you subscribe because I drop videos every single week. So today, I'm going to give you 7 different business ideas if you're thinking about opening a nonprofit organization. Now, I actually have a business bundle. It includes 3 different workbooks that you can kind of work through yourself, answer the questions to help flesh out your idea, flesh out what your program is, and figure out how you're going to fund it. So I'm dropping a link to that bundle in the description box. Go ahead and check that out. But also, I want you to wait until the end of this video. I want you to watch until the end because I'm going to give you a few pointers, a few questions you need to ask yourself before you decide to move forward with your nonprofit business idea. So in this video, I'm going to share 7 different business ideas for your nonprofit that I've seen trending lately, and I've seen a lot of people kind of use these business ideas. So I just wanted to share them with you to get your wheels spinning if you're thinking about starting a nonprofit. So the first idea I've seen a lot in recent years is a community garden. And I love this idea because you can find the plot in your local community. You can come together as a neighborhood or as a community and grow plants together. You can teach people how to grow. You can teach young people how to grow. You can sell the products, and you can basically provide food and provide sustenance for your community. So it's all self-sustaining. So I just love the idea of having a community garden. And the cool thing about gardening is you don't necessarily have to be in a rural place or have a huge plot of land. A lot of urban gardens are popping up. There's all these kind of gardening technologies that you can use. So you don't necessarily have to use a huge plot of land. So if you're interested in things like food insecurity or hunger, instead of the traditional food bank, you might want to consider starting a community garden. So the next idea I've seen that's pretty cool is a tiny home community. So for nonprofits that want to service the homeless population, and usually it's a specific type of homeless population, maybe it's for veterans or maybe it's for families, but I've seen these tiny home communities pop up for people if they want to have a lot of different plots, but they don't have a lot of space to do a lot of houses. So they'll build these tiny homes and they'll partner with community developers and real estate developers to build these homes so a lot of people can sustain like these small units. I think it's an awesome idea, and it's just when you see it visually, people really get behind the idea. They get inspired by it. So it's a great marketing tool as well to get people behind it if you're looking for donors, and also if you're looking for sponsors and for corporations to support as well. It's just a good visual to have when you can show like a model of a tiny home community. You can show your construction and your progress. So that's also an option for some people who want to serve the homeless community and provide housing for people. The next idea I've seen, which is kind of cool, and I've also seen it in my own local community, is a mobile shower. And these are typically set up again for the homeless population so people have somewhere to shower, to freshen up if they don't have a stationary place to live. So what people are doing is putting together these mobile trucks, and they're putting showers and hooking them up with water so people can actually freshen up, and you can go to people on the street. They don't actually have to come to you at a stationary place. I used to see this a couple years back when people were doing this with washing machines. I think Tide had a huge campaign around this where people could wash their clothes and it was mobile. But now I'm seeing more people have like mobile showers, and then people provide services right there. They provide toiletries for people. So you don't always have to have a stationary place. You can be mobile and you can move around so you can meet your clients where they are. The fourth business idea is around youth mentoring. Now, this idea has been around for a really long time. There are plenty of after-school programs, plenty of tutoring and mentoring programs, and there's actually a lot of research that you should look into that talks about the importance of mentoring and talks about what works with mentoring programs. But the reason why I brought it up is because we've had mentoring programs for a long time, but there's still a gap. There's still issues, especially when it comes to our young people. There are so many opportunities to serve specific populations of young people. What about a mentoring program for LGBTQIA plus youth? There are a lot of programs that don't necessarily serve their specific needs. What about a mentoring program for young people who are young parents specifically, right? So the reason why I bring that up is because a program can exist in your community, but it may be completely ignoring an entire population, which means there's an opportunity there. So you should look for where the opportunities are and where it makes the most sense. Another idea might be with an immigrant population, because in certain cities, the immigrant population is growing. So there are opportunities all around. So you just need to make sure an actual opportunity exists in your local community. So the next kind of business idea is having a nonprofit that actually helps people set up their own businesses. And this is a great idea because you're basically giving people the tools they need to be self-sustaining. And this is just a great idea because there's been a boom in recent years of people starting their own businesses. But again, there are certain populations of people who have been left behind in all sorts of types of industries. So you could have a nonprofit that specifically focuses on a group of people to help give them the skill sets to start their own business. The next idea that you might want to consider is a financial literacy nonprofit. So that means you are teaching people about finances, you're teaching them how to manage them better, you're teaching them about credit, budgeting, all of that kind of stuff. And this is a great idea to consider because so many banks, banks have money anyway, but a lot of banks are mandated to give back to their local community. And so when corporations give back to communities, is usually aligned with the work that they do. So when it comes to banks, they typically will provide funding for financial literacy or things around economic development, helping people start their own businesses, things like that. So that's something you may want to consider because it's a great way to get corporate support when you're doing programs around financial literacy. And the last business idea to consider is a business that focuses on the mental health of your community. Now, I've seen a lot of nonprofits recently focus on getting people access to therapy, particularly filling those gaps where government programs may not pay for a certain type of therapy, or people don't meet the guidelines for government programs. Maybe they make too much, but they still can't afford therapy, or just educating people about the importance of mental health and teaching them different mental health modalities. So there's so many ways you can go with this, but this is especially important now because of the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of people are struggling. So I've seen a lot of nonprofits just help pay for people's therapy. I've seen a lot of nonprofits provide therapists for free to other people who need access to therapists. So there are so many ways you can do this. I think it's just a prime time to focus on mental health, having that as a key outcome for your programs anyway, just so you're also focusing on people's emotional well-being as well as other tangible things like food, shelter, clothes, and all of that. So I promised at the end of this video to share some pointers and some questions you should ask yourself if you feel like you have a good nonprofit business idea and you're trying to move forward. Once again, if you need help fleshing out your idea, figuring out your program, then make sure you download my nonprofit business bundle. The link is below, and it'll help walk you through that process of figuring out how to move forward. But before you move forward, here's some questions you need to ask yourself. First things first, is there an actual need in my community or the community where I'm going to do my work, right? So this is equivalent for-profit businesses when you're trying to assess the market and whether or not people actually want the product. It's the same kind of thing with nonprofits. Is there an actual need in your community? If you want to start a mentoring program, are there enough mentoring programs already? So what you really need to do is figure out the landscape. Do a needs assessment to figure out if what you're trying to propose is even something that your clients need, is something that's appropriate in your community. So I would interview other nonprofits, I would interview potential clients, and I would also do a research scan and figure out if that's the best solution for the type of work that you're trying to do. The second thing you need to consider is, do you have the knowledge or the skills to actually execute? Now, I talked about 7 business ideas, but maybe you don't have expertise in one of the ideas, right? And maybe it's not appropriate for you to do that because you need a special kind of knowledge or special kind of certification to do the work. So I can't answer this question for you on this video. It's just for you to consider, is this the right space for you? And even if it isn't the right space for you, can you have people on your team who are well versed in this space who can help you navigate? Because if you're not very familiar with the area, you're not very familiar with the industry that you're trying to go into, it's going to be a steep learning curve. So if you don't know it very well, make sure you recruit team members who can help you navigate this space. The third question I want you to ask yourself is a nonprofit even necessary? So a lot of times when we want to do something good in our community, we automatically jump to starting a nonprofit. And that is not necessarily what you need to do. So I did another video on the comparison between nonprofits and for-profits. You should check out that video. But think about what you're trying to do and whether or not you even need a whole nonprofit organization, whether or not it just makes sense for your individual situation to have a for-profit because you want to have some kind of ownership to it. Just figure out if it makes sense to move forward as a nonprofit, because some of the ideas that I expressed to you could be perfectly fine as a for-profit venture as well. So I want you to consider that. And in the nonprofit business bundle, I have a bunch of questions to help you process that and figure out how you want to move forward. And then finally, the most important question of all, y'all. How are you going to pay for it? So if you're assuming that just because you have a nonprofit and you get your 501c3 status, that the money is going to come, it's going to rain from the sky as soon as you get your status, you are sadly mistaken. You still have to plan your business model as a nonprofit. You are still a business. You still have to function as a business. You still need to make profit in order to survive. I actually did a video on this which talked about, can nonprofits make a profit? Right? So check out that video to hear me talk a little bit more about that. But the short answer is you need to make a profit to survive, right? You need to have money to build up your infrastructure to be more efficient and to be more effective. So you need to ask yourself, if we're going to execute this idea as a nonprofit, how are we going to pay for it? In some instances, maybe your clients will pay for it. Maybe it lends itself better to corporate support, or it lends itself better to grants. But no matter what you do, you have to have a variety of income sources for your nonprofit. You can't just rely on one source. So I want to make sure you're clear about the fact that you need to pay for your services, the fact that you have to raise money, the fact that it is one of the most important things you have to pay attention to as a nonprofit founder and as a nonprofit board. So though the word is nonprofit, you still have to consider how you're going to make a profit in order to survive. Never forget that. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If you need help with your nonprofit or if you have more questions, you can always visit me at www.bostononbudget.com, and I will see you in the next video.